that drove us here. And on the Noble Eightfold Path, the next sections, the next steps, the next limbs of the Noble Eightfold Path are the path of transformation. And we looked at emotion quite a bit in the last few weeks, and we talked about gratitude and metta, especially. And we've got those qualities, those emotions are. And we'll adjust our microphone. Thank you, Ricky. And last week, Satyajyoti introduced us to the third link on the Noble Eightfold Path, and we talked about speech. We talked about why speech comes after emotion, and it's that sense of immediacy of our inner world, of our emotions and visions interacting with the world. So it's the immediate gateway of our inner world with the outer world. So it comes after emotion. And we also brought out that speech kind of creates the world we live in. So through our speech, we can really create a world that we inhabit, and our speech affects other people. So we can really influence other people and the mental states they're in through our speech. And other people's mental states again feeds back and influences our mental states. So in that way, we can really create a different world to ourselves from others around us through our speech. So that's quite so important. And it was exemplified by Satyajyoti and Bodhinaga when they rejoiced in Mokshatara. That's one of the practices that we do when we're perfecting and developing our speech. And we're all familiar with the world we live in, where there isn't a lot of nurturing and expressing of positivity and good qualities. So as our practice, a big part of our practice is actually to do that, to bring this speech of nourishing goodness, nourishing positivity, and becoming aware of it and expressing it to people. We really practice that. And in the introductory course, we would have remembered doing the rejoicing in merits exercise. So as the Buddha said, try it for yourself and see how it is, see if it works for you, try it in your own experience. So tonight we're going to carry on in rejoicing in merits. And we've got 5 Sangha members who will be rejoicing in the merits of other Sangha members. And for that we'll be in the Great Hall, on Zoom, in the Great Hall, on Zoom, and back in the Great Hall, hopefully in that order. And bear with us through that. And at the end, we can applaud all the talks at the end, so we can say that to the end. And when we go into our groups, I'll say this again at the end, we'll also get to practice ourselves. Each one of us can practice rejoicing in merits of others and just discuss how that feels, actually, how challenging, awkward and difficult it could be sometimes, but how rewarding it is actually to practice that. So the order of the 5 people we're going to give some short rejoicings tonight, about 3 minutes each, will be Sangha Gita first, and then it's Owen and Sarah Blagden and Peter Benyon, and then it's going to be me again. So
to stop. I'd just been asked to rejoice in somebody when I started my phone date with Faye Parker. And it was so obvious that here was somebody that it would be easy to rejoice in. Her sense of fun, her infectious laugh, she's good company, her devotion to the children that she teaches. But the more I get to know her, the more I admire and rejoice in her courage and her determination. And I asked, Faye is happy for me to tell you about what happened to her in her life because she thinks it might be helpful. 4 years ago, Faye went through a very difficult phase of her life. She lost all her confidence and became depressed and isolated. This was a shock to her system because she'd always been so confident. Not long before that, working as a marine biologist, she'd lived on a Fijian island for 12 months, for a year, I think, with 12 total strangers. But then, so that in itself, showed a lot of courage. But she began having, then 4 years ago, she began having panic attacks and began to suffer with anxiety. She was as low as you could be, and she packed up everything she owned and walked out of that situation to rebuild her life. And then, as she put it, she woke up when she discovered the Dharma. And she knew she had found the truth, but she needed huge courage to come to the intro course at the Buddhist Center, and she did. She has such inner strength and determination, When the opportunity to do an online retreat came along, she did it alone and joined a group she didn't know anyone in, because she thought it would be a good way to face her fears. And now she's hoping to take that a huge step of becoming a mitra, another very brave step for Faye. So she has this inner spiritual steel, such faith in the Dharma, and she won't allow fear to stop her doing anything that she wants to do. She had a really terrifying experience this year, and I'm a bit scared of cows in a field. I mean, I'm a bit scared of that. So when I heard what had happened to her, she was chased by a herd of cows and she broke her leg as she was trying to get away. And that would make most people stay away from cows for life. But a couple of weeks ago, she was on a signposted walk and she had to go through a field that had cows, calves, and a huge bull in it. So on crutches, she walked through that field to get where she was going and then back again to get home. She said that she will never be limited by fear ever again. She nearly squeezed Owen's hand off. But having been limited by fear in the past, she's determined never to be limited by fear again. And she says that she can see how much her life has changed since she found the Dharma. And her life is so full of joy, and that's so infectious. It oozes from her. So I say, Sadhu, Faye. I rejoice in your courage to practice the path of fearlessness.
It's just really exuded over this last strange period that we've all lived in.
Could you just repeat who you're rejoicing in?
Maitreya Dasa. I'm pleasing Maitreya Dasa. Yeah. So first, I want to celebrate. He basically has this superhuman level of perceptiveness for those that are around him, and just a genuine care for others as well. He's just so in tune with how people feel and how they are. Sometimes it's like he knows how I am before even I know how I am. It's like this X-ray vision. And there's just been countless occasions over the past few months where I've had something on my mind, I've had a difficulty, and he's just intuited and picked up on that and just helped draw it out of me in loads of different approaches, sometimes direct and being a bit pokey, sometimes just working behind the scenes to get me to speak, and then also just being really kind and loving when he needs to be. And it's just always just exactly what I need in that situation. So that's his first quality, just incredibly perceptive and cares a lot about people. I'd also like to celebrate this library. It's like this vast library of Bante's teaching that seems to exist between his ears. And more impressively, I think, just how effectively he communicates that. So I think the knowledge that he has and the wisdom he has, coupled with that perceptiveness, that care of people, makes him an incredible communicator of the Dharma, an incredible teacher. So again, over these last few months, he's been running study sessions quite consistently for the community. And I've just seen week by week how genius he is to pull out material that's just really, really relevant to all of our lives. And it always feels just so fresh and so on the cutting edge. And often after these sessions, I just can't sleep, basically. It's just affected me that much. It feels so like practical and powerful and like transformational. And that's a hard thing to do, to make study feel that relevant. That's a special thing. So that's the second quality, that he's just an incredible teacher and communicator of the Dharma. And third and lastly, I think it's probably his most special quality. He has this incredible ability to make the most realistic sounding animal noises I've ever heard a human being make. So if you haven't heard them, you should definitely ask. I think there's one he describes as the pig in distress, which is, it's unreal. It's something to be experienced. So, so I just want to say thank you much, Dasa, for your sense of fun, your wisdom, your care over the last few months. I'm just so grateful. I don't think I've got through lockdown without you. Thank you.
I would like to rejoice in my very good friend, Laura Stanley. Now, Laura is an amazing person. She has contributed much to many people in the Sangha, especially me. Laura is super intelligent, she's a mathematician, she's creative, she even knitted the woolly Buddha, and she's extremely ethical. Laura is one of those people who is very quietly solid and steady, and I mean that in a really good way. She's always there, she's strong, she's patient, and I know she listens to everything that is said to her, and she really takes it in. When she gives you her attention, it's all yours, and you know it. She has a way of letting you know that she's present with you and listening and is accepting. I can ring her at any time and she will respond with a positive way to whatever is going on, without making any judgments, without offering any advice. She's just being there and being supportive. Laura is quirky and she's courageous. She follows her own path and she knows where she is going, and she follows that path with grit and determination, and she will not be distracted. She doesn't follow the crowds, and she has her own likes and dislikes. For example, she loves heavy music. We had a discussion about what to call her sort of music. And she's happy to go to all these concerts on her own, and she does not want to inflict her taste in music on her friends. So not going to these concerts is not really an option for Laura. She wants to go see the bands, and she will go, and she often travels around the country to see these bands on her own. Laura sees things clearly. She sees what is needed and what she needs to do. She really enjoys the Dharma and has a real deep connection to it. She loves knowledge and she will seek it out, whatever the subject she's interested in. And if you give her a theory, she's in her element. And she can then research it, pick it apart until she is satisfied with her knowledge of it. She's often able to digest this knowledge as well and explain it in a way that's understandable to others, especially me. She is very level-headed. She weighs things up before she's taking any action. She's very matter-of-fact, and she doesn't just say things for the sake of it. You know with Laura that she has thought about what she wants to say. Laura also has a very caring side to her. She loves the natural world, especially animals, and her love of birds, especially budgies, is legendary. When I first knew Laura, she had 2 pet budgies named after mathematicians. One was Galwa, and I can't remember the name of the other one, and these birds were so loved. She used to put them to bed every night. She'd very carefully, she'll get them up in the morning, she used to speak to them, lots of interaction with these birds, and when she went to work and left them, she would put music on for them. I think it's Classic FM, was it? So they weren't on, they didn't feel on their own. Laura is very funny too. The great thing about Laura, she makes me laugh quite often. We're usually laughing at ourselves. She can see the funny sides of many things, and being able to laugh as well is a great gift. So, Laura, thank you very much for being my friend.
Well, what a delight. I have the chance to rejoice in the merits of Vedanya. I have 3 minutes, which isn't enough. So where to start? Well, Sheffield Buddhist Centre wouldn't be like it is without Vedanya. And of course, that's true of everyone who's contributed. But without Vedanya's clarity of vision, energy, focus, and total belief in the project of True Ratna as the best vehicle for us to go for refuge to the 3 jewels, to help us transform ourselves and the world, it wouldn't be like it is. Without Vedanya, I might not be here either. He led my intro course and introduced me to the vitality, the raw energy of the Dharma. I don't mean I wouldn't be alive, but that I might not be practicing in this tradition here. I think the name Vedanya means generosity and eloquence. If you've heard him talk, you'll be aware of his eloquence. His generosity shows in the way he's committed wholeheartedly to building this centre, this Sangha, There are no half measures with Vidanya. His energy is like the sun. And I know this isn't a good metaphor, but it seems that the more energy he gives out, the more he has. I've been in his study group for several years, and I know all the group will be rejoicing with me. We benefit from his huge knowledge of the Dharma, his love of sharing the Dharma with us, peeling away the layers of meaning so that we individually find the jewels that set us on fire with the passion that he has, so that we're inspired to grow and progress along the path. His motivation is our freedom, and that's the mark of a great teacher. I think that's what inspires Vidanya, the absolute belief that the Dharma can lead us to the end of suffering, and that the Sangha is the vehicle that we need to make that journey, to transform ourselves for the benefit of the world. His energy is ridiculous. I'm sure that at the end of every study session, I'm sure that he wishes we had another couple of hours, and given the choice, he'd probably have us up all night talking the Dharma. Many years ago, when I became a Mitra, Vidanya rejoiced in my merits. Actually, he described a person I'd hardly recognised, and I felt I had to grow into. That's Vidanya. He sees and believes in the potential in us, in all of us. And luckily, he has enormous reserves of patience and kindness. He stuck by me through my ridiculous ups and downs. Yes, Vidanya is like a full-force gale. Sometimes you get blown over. We haven't always agreed, and he has to have the last word. But after hours, months, or maybe years, I've invariably come round to see what he was getting at. And if you make a good point, he'll take it on. And if he thinks he's upset you, he'll be concerned. There's a very tender heart inside Vidanya. And there are occasional delightful moments when he looks at me sideways with that steely glint in his eye. Now then, Benyon, are you really paying attention? One of the things I've missed most about Corona lockdown is not being able to go for a walk with Vidanya. Through woods, round lakes, up and down hills, we've enjoyed being in nature, talked the Dharma, talked about our lives, getting old, beauty, impermanence, the wonder of trees, passion and letting go, magic and loss. Precious conversations with a man I love and revere.
Absolutely lovely to hear all that. I was also reflecting, and it's like surprising. I've also picked a mathematician to rejoice in, like Sarah. So it's interesting. We've got some mathematicians in and a maths teacher in our Sangha. So yeah, I'll be rejoicing in Robert Milton. That's what most of you would know as Robert Milton. And yeah, so very recently, some of our friends, it's just happened that we got together and we wrote some rejoicings in Robert. So I'd like to bring some of that in, bring some of what other people said about Robert and what they wanted to rejoice in. And Amogavamsa was saying that Robert is a very kind man, very thoughtful, and a pleasure to spend time with, and also teaches him things that he didn't even know existed. So Robert has this massive repertoire of knowledge about things that exist that, well, quite often I don't know about either. And also Kevin, who's a very good friend of Robert's, has said that he's a very generous person. He's really open, loving, funny and joyful. He's intelligent, brave, honourable, and that he's an artist. And anybody who listens to Robert talking about equations and talking about numbers can really see that he doesn't do it as a job. He's like an artist. He just works with these things like an artist would. It's not a job for him. It's just, I get the sense of that image of the Matrix. You know, when Robert's talking about it, it's like he's seeing numbers and equations all around him, and it's just really, really beautifully talks about him and expresses that passion he's got. And another one of his friends said, "You're a joy and delight who enriches life with love and joy. Your courage in overcoming suffering and finding happiness inside and out, on all in between, has given me a priceless jewel to reflect and guide my own healing." And I really love how that was put, really. I think Robert really exemplifies that for people who know him. He just works with things, difficulties, in a very exemplary way. Yeah. And also somebody said, Charles, that he was a very thoughtful man, very generous, incredibly intelligent, captivating, and also very funny. And yeah, so I'd like to also add onto it in terms of yeah, I see Robert knows somebody who gives up, who quits. You know, he's had very difficult times, but he's used that. He's like, as in Buddhist terms would say, he's encountered dukkha and he's gone for refuge. He's really sought a real, true refuge, and he's found that. He's come here and he's really developed himself and he's really grown. He's not sought ways of escaping it. So he's got a lot of courage, and also. As many people will say, he's a very intelligent man, but he doesn't make that a very known thing. Particularly, he doesn't like identify with it, and it's lovely. Like if you spend time with him, you really get the sense that what he really values is kindness, is generosity, friendliness, and humor, and yeah, just warmth from people. Those are the qualities he really values, and doesn't make a big deal of his intelligence. And what I like to sort of end up with is there's this quality Robert has of becoming aware, noticing other people's good qualities. So he pays a lot of attention and really notices other people's good qualities. And he also makes sure he talks about them. So he rejoices in people and he expresses gratitude a lot. And yeah, some of my most moving memories with Robert is when I mean, another big passion of his is film. So he's watched thousands of films and he knows pretty much everybody in that film and where the camera was and what was in the background. And he's just got this fascinating memory and this really passionate sort of expression of these films that he tells you about. And while he's captivated in this movie becoming sort of almost a visceral experience in myself listening to him. He kind of just suddenly stops, and he gets this really beautiful, serene smile in his face. And then I'd say like his eyes fill up with love. So his eyes just fill up with love. And then the next thing to come out is usually some expression of gratitude or rejoicing in somebody. And I was just sat thinking about this, like, why does he affect me so much? So he's got this really powerful effect on me when I experience that with him. And the words and the images I got is like, almost like when we feel a pulse, we know that's coming from the heart. And when I experience Robert in those moments, I just like feel like I'm in touch with his heart. So I'd like to really rejoice in this man and his big and open heart, because he just really lets you in there and really shares it. And I think that's a wonderful and amazing quality he has. I think I'll leave it at that for this time. And he was on there somewhere looked like a big giant, chocolate cake or something. I couldn't tell earlier in his surprising background. Oh, there he is. It's a giant flake. Yes, I think so. Looks lovely. Yeah. So that's our five people rejoicing and 5 of our Sangha members, and I think we could express applause and appreciation for everybody.